On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are talking about feedback that we got from Picard 309, and we're also talking about a bunch of news, mostly from Terry Matalas. Right after these words from our mystery sponsors. Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on two lifelong friends chat about Star Trek. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
Davo.
Yes, sir.
Here we have some things to discuss this evening.
We do. We got more feedback than I think we've ever gotten.
I love it. I love it. Dude, next to last episodes are always the like... I used to think, like, it's the finale. We got to, like, be on top of things. But over years of podcasting, I now realize, like, once the finale is over, there's nothing to speculate about. You know what I mean? Like, it's like all over but the shouting kind of like thing. It's just kind of, it's all settled, you know?
Yeah, man.
So we, it's just interesting. I've learned that over the years of podcasting that I always think, like, oh, the finale's coming up, but it's never the finale that gets all the buzz. It's the second to last, always the second to last.
Oh, yeah, that's when all the fans basically turn into a can of silly string and just start jizzing everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That is the proper term, by the way.
All right. I don't know what term you're talking about.
Jizzing.
All right. Well, I'm ignoring you.
No, have you seen the little... They're like training videos for like factory work, and it's like showing like the little nozzle coming down and like putting a squirt of something on whatever, and it's like then the bread takes a bit of jizz, and like it's an actual video, but like
No, I have not seen that. That's funny. Or is it someone like doing a different voiceover?
No, I think it's real. And it's an acceptable term. It's just not one that people usually use for obvious reasons.
All right. I don't know about that. All right, well, let's get to feedback, man. Let's do it. We got a lot to get through, apparently.
Yeah, first I want to talk about some of this news. This is really cool for people who haven't wanted to jump on board the Paramount Plus side of things. I don't know who's listening who hasn't, but Pluto TV, which is owned by Paramount, is airing Strange New Worlds Season 1 right now for free. So if you want to catch up on that before jumping into Season 2 or whatever, you can watch that for free. And it's already got Season 2 of Picard available.
Nice.
I think that's really cool. I think hopefully that'll bring people into Paramount Plus eventually, get people excited for it.
Because all those lovers of Pluto TV.
Dude, I love Pluto TV.
I don't know what that is.
It's a free streaming service that Paramount owns, and like they have lots of shows on demand, but you can also like look through like the guide, and they just play. They have channels for the shows that they have on demand, and like me and Bethany will just like throw on like Rescue 911, and. And just when we're doing other things and just have like Rescue 911 and William Shatner like narrating these people with, you know, mullets and shit. And it just plays one after the other. And they have like a 90210 channel. They have a Happy Days Laverne and Shirley Mork and Mindy channel. They've got a Star Trek channel. It's like they've just got a bunch of different like just free with ads like normal TV playing on demand stuff.
Neat.
It's really cool.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I've been championing that for a long time. They needed to be doing outreach to people who don't have Paramount Plus because shows are good. I think they could be building new Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much they are, you know?
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's really smart if they're looking and saying, like, we're not getting a ton of new views on Picard or Season 1 of Strange New Worlds. Let's try to, like, amp up the anticipation for the next season by throwing it on a free service.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there are a lot of those free services like Freevee and Tubi and Pluto TV, and I love all of those. They're really great.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we've got some stuff that Terry Matalas has been saying. First, he talked about the Borg. He said, no, the Pa Wraith were never considered. It was always a story about legacy. about what we pass on about parents and children. Pa wraiths are neat, but that would have come out of nowhere. We talked about that. There is nothing organic about the story we were telling to suggest that, other than a connection to DS9 with the changelings.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I feel like that's a pretty strong connection, but like
it is.
It's a strong connection. I don't know why he said it would come out of nowhere. You're in the same universe. You're talking about, I'm gonna believe my headcanon about how this whole thing was all part of their plan.
Yeah, you can. And look, I think there was something, and I think a lot of it was just like a desperate need for it not to be the damn Borg again. I think some of us were just like hoping for something a little more interesting than the Borg.
Yeah, I hear that. It's like, it's almost too obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it's going to be the Borg, we want it to be something interesting. Now, I was thinking about, what does it mean? Who is the... They didn't show the face of the Borg. It had a Krieg's voice, but they didn't show the face. And it didn't show the body either. It didn't show if it was male or female or anything.
Well, he did say it is Alice Krieg as the Borg Queen. You will see her in the finale, though. It is voiced by Alice Krieg, but the Borg Queen does not look good when you see her. Janeway did a number on them the last time we saw them, and there's a reason she needs Jack.
Okay. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I was just, like, I'm curious what they did with Picard's body. Like, we know they took it. Is it just that they took the genetic code and added it to the transporters? Is that all we need to know about what they did with his body?
I guess so.
Okay. Because I'm still sitting here like, are they going to revive that body? Because especially now that we know that the changeling who stole it were working with the Borg.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to get like, and we've kind of discussed it, but zombies versus robots, zombie Picard versus robot Picard.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, I just think it's weird that they stole his body and all they did was scoop the brain. That's the only part of the plan if we're talking about the Borg and Locutus, you know?
Yeah, I don't think they needed to do anything else. I mean,
I don't know, man.
They assimilated all of Starfleet, everyone who was under 25, you know?
Well, sure, but it's just like, I guess Picard's faced himself before.
Yeah.
So it would be like he's already faced a clone of himself. I really want like a Shinzon versus Locutus versus Android Picard. Just like
I don't
clones,
think I do.
Clones versus zombies versus robots, man.
No. Just no. I don't need Robert Rodriguez directed Star Trek, like Grindhouse Star Trek.
No, I just could see like if he had to actually face Locutus. Like in his new body, he's gotten past his whole thing, but one last time he had to look at the horror that is Locutus. It's like the worst of him, you know? Mm-hmm. Which I think is going to be sort of what he's doing when he sees Jack. But like, and when he has to face off with Jack, the worst of him being passed down. Like that's all interesting for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I could see it like being really good if they had done something with like actually Locutus returning, like if Locutus had been leading this strike against the, all the Federation, and it's just like Wolf 359 and now this, and like Locutus and he has to stand up to himself one last time, I don't know.
Yeah,
could be interesting.
And Picard renames himself Surdy, which is Latin for death. I like it. Locutus and Vox have no power over me. No, I think there could have been really something cool there about, Pa Wraith and having Gul Dukat, and maybe, Cisco coming back, and Cisco having that, that Shaw connection, that connection of hating Picard and, with themes of legacy and leaving children behind and
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they could have done something with that. There's connection there.
Yeah, there's tons of like thematic and like direct connection because of the changelings. And so they definitely could have done something, but what he is saying is kind of what we've been saying for weeks, which is like whoever this is, whoever the big bad is going to be, needs to be someone strongly connected to Picard's story.
Yeah.
And Borg makes most sense, even though it's been like the story of his life ever since the show ended. You know, you had First Contact, and then you had last season. Yeah, it's a lot of Borg.
They dealt with a lot in season 1 as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, as far as Jurati is concerned, reinforcing the fact that he said, you know, the Jurati Borg are a separate sect of Borg from an alternate past, and they're not connected with the quote-unquote real Borg. He says Jurati does not appear. That will have to be a tale for another time. And this is something I'm learning about Terry Matalas. He really likes to set things up.
Right.
For like he was saying that Worf saying that was not my fault about the Enterprise E was just like a setup for, he was just curious to see how many novels could come out of that.
I mean, I like that, and I think that's something Star Trek does well, sets the stage for other stories, so you don't have to wrap everything up neatly. But the Jurati Borg thing is weird. Like, it's a weird thing to leave open. Like, it's the season cliffhanger, basically, and then you just come back and ignore it. That doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, I mean, I get your point, and I feel kind of the same way, but also I'm all right with it.
Yeah, well, I can reconcile myself to it. This season's worth it. You know, I think this season's been really good. I like what they've done, so I don't care if they. It would have just been nice to hear like a sentence about it or something, like we left we left some other ship out there, like keeping an eye on them and like keeping an eye on what's going on, like we're all doing this, you know.
Well, to be fair, we did have a sentence. We did have Shaw say, "Forget about that weird shit on the Stargazer with those other Borg. They're not the real Borg. The real Borg are still out there." So
right.
and we knew at the end of last season that Jurati and her Borg were friends with the Federation and were watching out for that, like guarding that transwarp conduit or whatever it was.
Right, whatever that gateway was.
I feel like we got enough closure, and if they ever want to go back to that, they can.
Oh, I definitely don't think we got enough closure, but they can go back to it. That's true.
Now, on Shaw, Matalas said, "It was always part of Shaw's arc to die at the hands of the Borg. It was always going to be, from the beginning, how he went out. It's his worst nightmare, but one he faces heroically, and he gets to be the one who sends them on the escape pod. They are the lucky ones this time." But he did point out there has always been a plan for Shaw's character to be a part of the spinoff. And I heard a thing where they were talking about like how the way they would make him a part of it has given what's his face? The guy that plays Shaw, I can't remember his name suddenly. It gave him chills when he found out about it. So I hope Star Trek Legacy happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Which it might, because guess what? Picard became the first Star Trek series to break into the streaming top 10 ranking.
Nice.
For March. They came in at number 9 on the top 10 list, which the way it's ranked indicates that they're getting more popular as the season is going, so they'll probably climb for next month's Nielsen top 10 streaming rankings.
If Paramount is smart, they will already have Legacy in the works, and this series will end in a way setting it up, and we will soon get an announcement.
Well, Matalas and Frakes have been saying that it does end with a setup for a for a spinoff, but Matalas says that nothing is in development right now.
See, that's stupid on their part.
I agree.
I think they need to follow this up as if it's a new season of this show. You know, like, even if whatever they're coming out with needs to come out within a year, or you're just going to lose the steam, you know?
I don't know that it needs to come out within a year, but there needs to be an announcement with a steady stream of teases.
Well, that's for me and you. That'll keep us interested.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll be interested anyway. Like, the Star Trek, for people who are watching for announcements and paying attention to that stuff. But, like, someone who sees this show and say they take 3 years to get a show, like, greenlit and piloted and off the ground, and then all these actors are older, and you get like 3 years later, and people are like, oh, that season, that character, oh yeah, I remember Sydney. Like, it starts to feel distant, you know. And if it was like within a year, as if it was another season, like if they were right now secretly working on it and it's already in the works and they're doing the thing and they just announce it, like if this show ended with a like, you know, Sydney and Shaw and Jack will return in Star Trek Legacy, we would all just be, anyone watching this show would be like, when is that coming out? I will watch it, you know.
Look, hopefully Matalas is just kind of giving us some bullshit, and
I hope so, yeah.
As soon as the finale airs, they'll, you know, within a week they'll be like, Star Trek Legacy's happening, because they don't want to like,
I hope so too,
ruin the end of this necessarily, but
right.
Anyway.
Post-credit sequence, baby. Post-credit sequence.
All right, we can get to some feedback here. So for the last episode, for Vox, our episode description, I had in all Latin except for the word maman, which I have added French to the most descriptions since season 2 of Picard. Maman is just now the audience for me. So it was all in Latin except for maman. And Salvor Harden on Twitter said, it took me a second to realize I didn't somehow screw up my podcast language settings after trying to read the description. Well played. And a listener who asked to remain anonymous said, it took me far too long to understand what I was looking at in this week's episode description. I was so confused. Latin, Latin, French. Latin, 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 French. You bastard. And Rachel Elizabeth on Twitter at Rayleigh514 says, the Latin summary for the podcast just cracked me up so hard. Hi from a new listener.
Awesome.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello, Rachel.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah.
Misfit Scully on Twitter says, just watched episode 9. Here I am in the dark and can't stop smiling. And they posted a kind of a creepy picture of them smiling in the dark.
Ooh. I like it.
Nerdy Tastic on Twitter says, not me watching Picard and sobbing into my pillow and wailing as they show the ship. And with a gif of Lucille Ball grimacing that says, ew, feelings. Serena Altair messages us on Twitter and says, TNG was my mom's favorite show. As a kid, I couldn't understand why, but it felt like my family's safe, happy place. She passed when I was 16, and it took me more than a decade to bring myself to rewatch it. As an adult, in need for escape, I finally understood how the show had given Mom a break from struggling to raise 2 kids alone, juggling precarious jobs to feed us, investing the crumbs of energy she had left in making us feel loved, valued, safe, and happy. I also realized how she had always had a crush on Captain Picard, while I was gay for Counselor Troy many years before I even knew what the word meant. This year marks 20 years since she left us, and every episode of Star Trek Picard Season 3 has felt like gathering with family around a dinner table. I know she would have loved to see the crew back together. People sometimes speak negatively of nostalgia as if it undermines the quality of a show. What if I don't need it to be high art in order to love the way it makes me feel? What if a little episode of TV has the power to bring my mom back to me for a few minutes, just like it had the ability to make her forget all her troubles while she was on this earth? I am deeply grateful for this season, for the memories, and for the extended fictional family it has brought back to both my brother and I.
That's beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that.
Seriously. That's beautiful and meaningful, and you know, like, high art, to me, the difference between high art and low art doesn't matter. It just matters the impact and the communication and the connection you have with it. And that's beautiful that you're finding that with this. I have a similar, you know, me and Dave both have similar experiences, like with my father passed a couple of years ago, and like getting to know this show as a kid was the like that thing she just described, like him finding her finding her rest in this show, and she's finally understanding that. That's, I think, like why I got into Star Trek, was sitting there trying to kind of figure out why my parents like this show. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they led me into this show by sitting down every Friday night or whatever and watching TNG, and I was just like, we only had one TV, and I was like, I don't like this, but I'll sit here and figure out what my parents think. What are they understanding that I'm not? And like, it made me the person I am in so many ways. It's incredibly powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Sarah Taylor on Twitter at MyLadyKitten says, I am absolutely loving this season of Picard. The nostalgia is off the chain and writing is stellar. For this to be the swan song for TNG, I could not wish for anything better. 309 had my anxiety at red alert, and the villain reveal was chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Sarah Taylor's one of those, who listens to this show and listens to DC on Screen, and has always been very, forthcoming with feedback in the past, and keep sending us stuff, Sarah.
Yeah. Thanks for
Benjamin.
Sarah.
Benjamin Noah says, man, I ugly cried like a nerd baby the first time I watched this. Then I rewatched it again and cried again. It just hits on such a deep level, like Terry Matalas was watching TNG with 10-year-old me, taking notes and planning this since 1991. I feel the same way. Like, I feel like he was just like sitting on my shoulder going like, I'm taking notes of everything.
Yeah.
Matthew Davis sends us one, says, well, this was one frustrating emotional roller coaster of an episode. First, they give us answers about Jack. And when someone is described as being the key to the plan, it is usually metaphorical. But with Jack, it's almost literal. Next, holy crap. The Borg plan comes to fruition as Starfleet is assimilated. But just those sitting at the kids' table, Team Gray Hair and Wrinkles, is unaffected. Shelby returns, but for less time than Ro. How the hell are Picard and the others going to fight Starfleet? And then, no, how dare they make us like Shaw and then take him from us? But as we're losing one new friend, another old friend returns. Hello, Enterprise D. We've missed you.
We have indeed.
It's like seeing the first car or the best car you had as a teenager or young adult restored and ready to drive. First, guys, the analogy with assimilation being woke? Nah. Mindless drones caught up in a groupthink makes me think of red ball caps instead of red shirts. I'm not going to try to predict anymore. It still wouldn't surprise me if we see one of the core TNG crew die in action, but damn it, I didn't think they would kill off Shaw. I'm not sure how they're going to get out of this one, but for some reason I feel sorry for the Borg. And after all the talk about family, I'll be disappointed if we don't get some sort of can we call you uncle moment between Geordi's daughters and Data.
That makes me want a Doctor Who moment for this crew. Like, you know, when Matt Smith took over on Doctor Who, and you get that moment where like he's facing this terrible enemy, and the way he beats him is just by telling him like, no, you've met me before, right? Like, you've heard of me, and they just run. Like, that's the first enemy he faces. Like I don't want that to happen, but I kind of want like that sort of bravado from the crew. Like at some point, I just want them to be like, we got this. Like, I guess that's kind of what that was, the end of this episode. Even though it's incredibly dire and terrible, and then I don't see how they're getting out of this either.
Yeah. Well, this is one of those times where I would be perfectly happy if, just for nostalgia's sake, if they can't figure out how to beat them, and then Data says something really innocuous, and then Geordi goes, Data, you're a genius. All we have to do is blah, 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 and technobabble. It's just like blowing up a balloon. Whatever. It's because that was such a staple of TNG. Like, it would be hilarious if that's what they did.
My least favorite thing about TNG. Please do not. Like, it'd be fine if you'd done that halfway through the season. Do not end the season with a technobabble answer, please.
I hate it so much, but in this instance, I think I would just laugh and be like, "That was perfect."
Yeah, it'd be fine. It would be fine if they did something like that as a tease, but like, I just want a really good character moment, man. I want some good character moments.
Yeah. At this point, I think that would be a good character moment.
It's always my contention that like shows are all about like those big moments are just all about shows are all about us seeing these characters make decisions after they are fully set up, and then we really get to like live with them with the decisions they make. Sometimes they surprise us, sometimes they're exactly what we expect, and like that's the rub. Like, we don't know exactly, but a good show makes it feel like either is possible. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen here. I love a show where like you really put the heroes in a predicament that I cannot imagine them getting out of. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know what they're going to do here.
The thing that always scares me about that is I feel like the resolution is always disappointing.
Yeah, a lot of shows it is. I'm hoping this is not one of them. You ever watch much of Burn Notice?
I've seen episodes here and there, and I've loved what I've seen, but I haven't watched it all.
I love that show, and one of the reasons I love it is because it always puts me, almost every commercial break, I go, there's no way of getting out of that. And then he does something completely clever and gets out of it. And it's always like, not the way you'd expect him to. He never gets out of a situation just by fighting his way out. It's always some like clever trick or something to do. Like he always has a plan. Like it's always just something interesting. And I really want to see. I really want to see something like that from this crew. You know?
Yeah, I feel you.
Man, I'm looking at the back of the Borg's head. I'm just have the episode running in the background, just like Alison Krieg, if they say that's probably her, that and like just like half of her head looks like it's taken over by sprockets and such.
Yeah.
Oof.
Those are self-sealing stem bolts.
Oh, that's the other reason they broke in. That's the other reason they broke into the Daystrom
They had to get those stem bolts,
Got to get your stem bolts.
Matthew Davis sent us another email and says, when writing an earlier email, I kept thinking there was something I wanted to tell you about, but I couldn't remember. Well, I remember. There is a YouTube content creator named Steve Shives who covers a variety of stuff, including Star Trek. He did this one recently where he played a Starfleet lawyer talking about his experiences in the JAG Corps. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's hilarious.
Oh, Steve Shives is awesome. Yeah, he's one of my favorite like guys to go to for just watching this stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything from him in a long time. I enjoyed him for a while. And then in 2021, when the Snyder cut of Justice League came out, he just became really super vitriolic and apparently really hates everything Zack Snyder. And I muted him and never went back.
Oh, see, I think he's great. I've only listened to Star Trek content, but I like Steve Shives a lot.
Well, I didn't even think about it, but because I followed him on Twitter as well, and he just got so woo.
Yeah,
he really had a bugaboo, man.
Well, Zack Snyder's bad,
I disagree.
You're like, podcast over.
I am muting you, Matt.
I will now speak on the podcast into the ether, and you may respond if you wish, but you're muted.
The new name of this show is Into the Ether. But yeah, I a long time ago, I enjoyed what I saw of his. Andre Sparks sends us an email. The return we should have known. Hey guys, few things. So they killed Shaw. Damn. As soon as they brought up connection, I was like, Borg. The whole only controlling 25 and under was pretty funny to me. I thought that was clever, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
Seeing the old ship again definitely got to me. Realizing this will be the end for the crew I grew up with had me sad emoji. Respect to all the cast, crew, and creators for coming back to finish it out. Lastly, how will it all end? Will new Borg come to save the day again? Old Borg? No. Not the Jurati Borg.
Well, they say no.
Says Terry Matalas.
Like, I don't think the Jurati Borg will show up just because it would be really unsatisfying. If like they showed up and just stopped what the Borg were doing, it'd be like, come on, this is not their story, Yeah, at this point,
Deus Juratica.
Yeah, exactly. I think you can just go with Machina. The machine works pretty well.
I wanted to say Juratica.
just sounds like a fanfic novel with some porny overtones.
Why? That's you're putting that on there. Don't blame me.
Juratica sounds way more like erotica than it does Machina.
I'm okay with that. I didn't think about it, but I'm okay with that. Like
Juracana, maybe. If it's a Juracana, but Juratica, it just sounds like you're porn for fanfic.
Now I might have to write that. Will Wesley come to save his brother? Man, I hope so. That'd be so dope if it was Wesley, because they've name dropped him so many times in this season.
Yeah. And
damn it, let Wesley hang out with Beverly for a second.
It could have the same problems of, a Deus Wessica. But
I don't need it to be that necessarily. I just, a conversation maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Like maybe he could show up to like use his technology to save Jack or something after they've already stopped the Borg. Like he could show up to do some small action to like help his mother, like to save her other son, that sort of thing. I don't want him to like be a part of the like battle. Does that make sense? Like I want them to be able to stop the Borg and do what they need to do. And then having like a just one last like blessing from your son Wesley, who's a super being, would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I don't understand necessarily why. Like, I mean, he showed up at Riker and Troy's wedding. I don't think it would be like out of hand for him to say like, "Holy shit, the Borg just assimilated all the Starfleet. I kind of need to go help out my brother and my mom." Like I don't think that would be like any kind of god machine. That would just be like Wesley being like, shit, I need to answer these texts for my mom. Oh, shit's going bad. It's just
you just made the same argument about Jurati. Like it's just as like you can justify it in the story. I'm not saying you can't justify it. You can justify Jurati showing up.
You can.
Be very unsatisfying to not have the characters who we've been watching for 10 episodes solve the problem. At least be the main source of the solution,
Well, one of those characters have been whining about Wesley not being around, so.
Well, yeah. A little bit.
And with the themes of family and legacy and all that shit.
Yeah. I know, I think I'd love to see him show up. I really would.
Yeah. I don't know like what he could do to show up like that wouldn't be like fixing the entire problem though. Like because he's on such a level.
I think saving Jack's life would be the thing. I think if it's like all of the other stuff was supposed to happen, he's going through the galaxy and he's fixing problems and guiding the universe to where it needs to be or whatever. And like maybe this big event in Starfleet history was supposed to happen, that they were supposed to get assimilated. A lot of people were supposed to die, and he really didn't have the authorization to do that. But like one thing he can do is save his brother or something. Like do some small. It doesn't have to be brother, whatever. I don't know. Some he can do some small action to help his friends and family.
I'll tell you though, I don't think the whole fleet's going to wind up staying assimilated. They're going to undo it. They're going to undo it.
For sure. I just mean like the fleet was assimilated and they killed a ton of people. Is what I mean. It's still a major event. Yeah, is what I mean.
One of which was Shelby. So
yeah, and take possibly Elnor.
No. Terry Matalas actually came out and said Elnor was not on the Excelsior. He said Elnor's safe. Don't worry.
I appreciate that Terry Matalas is being communicative.
Yeah, I just think it's funny that he's responding to people like that.
Yeah, but I kind of don't. Like, I kind of wish that like we sit here and wonder and kind of laugh about and joke about Elnor might have been on the Excelsior all that time, and then 2 years later when he shows up on some other spinoff, we're like, oh, yeah, Elnor's alive. We get that celebration moment. But now it's weird to learn things for sure when it's not in the show.
Yeah, dude, I saw like some actress who played an ensign on Picard, and she messaged Memory Alpha and was like, and I didn't recognize her either. She said, "Memory Alpha, stop saying that I'm deceased. My character is not deceased." And Terry Matalas responded and said, "Confirmed. She is resting."
It's really funny.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
That is really good.
Let's see. He continues, or will Jack overcome the Borg Queen? Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Great job. Good job. I want to put words in your mouth on another great season of podcasting. Keep up the good work.
Hey,
thank you, Andre.
Yeah, for real.
Always love hearing from you, bud.
Absolutely.
Tim Castillo sends us a message titled "Kids These Days." He says, 8472, Pa Wraiths, Nagilum, Armus, all those would be pretty cool. I guess it could only have ever been the Borg, and I'm not upset about it at all. This is great. I'm on board. The small stakes and the big stakes are all here. Family, the planet, the galaxy. Let's go. I guess the transporters weren't turning them into changelings. They were turning them into Borg. Crazy. Hoped for a moment that Shelby would be able to catch up with the crew after all was said and done. Nope. 2 shots, point blank, rough. To be fair, we didn't see her body. Like, we saw them shoot, and she went, ah! And then it, like, the feed cut out. So she could still be holding on.
Yeah, she could still be around. I doubt it.
I doubt it, too.
She could be around. Let me ask you, what are these symbols that all the ships form when they go into Borg mode or whatever?
I thought it was just Borg language.
Well, yeah, maybe. But I thought they were doing that before the Borg even came around, though. I thought they were doing that when they were just doing the formations or whatever. I don't know.
They had a formation, but it wasn't that. It wasn't like that.
They make these little diamond symbols, and I just don't know what those are.
Well, remember the Queen had a diamond ship.
Yeah, they're not all diamond though. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, some of them are like circles with dots, you know.
Yeah.
Well, they're you know, they're vaccinating for cooties. That's what circle, dot.
Yeah.
Now you've got your cootie shot. Oh, God. Is Seven going to use some latent queen ability? Season 1, she was a queen momentarily. Is that something she can do? I think Seven plugged into that specific cube, and she was acting as a Borg queen for those, the commanding voice for those drones.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't think that means
that still means she has that ability, I guess. I don't know that she could outweigh the other queen. You know?
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
But if she's weak enough, ancient and weak.
Mm-hmm. Tim continues, I do wish another shuttle or two escaped from the fleet. O'Brien coming back would have been great, but he could have stationed himself in engineering. I suppose that's a pretty big set, though. Completely bringing the bridge back is quite impressive on its own. Still, I wouldn't mind knowing that there were a few good crewmen down in the belly of the ship. But with all of this, what the heck, where is Queen Jurati? I know she's at that giant red incursion wormhole thing, holding back Vecna or whatever. But imagine split Borg factions tearing into each other. I guess that sort of happened in Voyager, didn't it? I don't remember. The Borg fighting Starfleet and Starfleet is the villain? Domjot human. I love that as an ending, as a farewell. Domjot human. Human play. Domjot?
I love that Vecna is the new Voldemort. I don't know, or whatever. The new just nondescript villain, and Vecna is that. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. Dude, I would love to see O'Brien come back. I know he's not. I want very much to see, but Calamini has said that he would not come back unless there was a really good reason for O'Brien to be involved in the plot and in the story.
Mm-hmm. And really, O'Brien, while he was on TNG and there was a number of episodes, he really got his real life on DS9, way more, way more in depth with his character. And so, I'd like to see him come back. But if he was coming back, I'd rather see him in a DS9, some sort of DS9 collection of people.
Yeah,
it's really sad to think that we'll never get what we're getting here with DS9.
Maybe not. We don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, just because some of them have already passed. particularly Rene Auberjonois.
Oh yeah,
It's just
Renee did.
Yeah, it's just really hard to think about like that without him. But at the same time, I want those characters back too at some point.
Yeah,
I worry that it's just because it wasn't as popular of a show and at least didn't have the in its time it didn't have the same popularity that they just won't try to make that happen like they tried to make this happen.
Yeah, I think we're getting. I think the possibility increases with each new series that we'll get something more with DS9. Just especially since we're getting 25th century set pieces now. That they can reuse and reposition to make it look like different ships and whatever. I know we get Renee back, but that's not to say they couldn't do some small homage or something like they did on Prodigy.
Sure. For sure.
But yeah, I would.
They could do that, and they also have the fact that he's a changeling. You have the fact that some other changeling could have had a relationship, could have linked with him and know him, and whatever. You could have all kinds of ways of him returning kind of spiritually without the actor, but it's just kind of a bummer. It's to see this crew this way on the bridge and know that exact thing can't happen for DS9.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see everyone come back, but Oh, okay. So we're down to Stu. Big Stu, little. with an email titled "No, you're in the way, Shelby." Do you remember what he's referencing there?
Yeah, back from Best of Both Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When she wants Riker to move up in rank and get the hell out. So you're in the way. Hey guys, the Borg? Well, that's an anticlimax. And feels a bit stale after 2 seasons where Borg stuff was a big part. Kinda. Jack is right to be annoyed at Picard wanting him to go to an institution. He's a little old for his dad to be grounding him. Again, we're getting a system that interconnects all the ships in the fleet after what happened in Prodigy? Really? I mean, really? Also, the fact they relayed all of this information as part of a public history celebration minutes before it was exploited. There's ham-fisted exposition, and there's this. Also have to point out that even if the system does not get hijacked, it still seems like a massive security issue to move the entire fleet to one location, leaving all the other areas of the Federation less protected. What if they resolve all this Borg stuff only to find out a rejuvenated Cardassian empire has taken over a bunch of systems in their absence? In story, Picard must have seemed like a rambling, crazy old man popping up on a screen to yell, "The Borg are infiltrating Starfleet through the changelings!" Like that. Yeah. Kind of noticeable that Shelby doesn't react to the phaser shots before the screen cut out. Bad FX, or does she just not give a fuck? I thought she reacted to them. I saw her go, "Oh!"
Yeah, I thought she didn't react that much, but I thought it was just because it was so quick. It looked to me like it was the kind of disruptor or whatever. I know they were technically phasers, but it looked like they were eating away at her, like she was about to disintegrate almost.
It was the same effect they used when Shaw was shot.
Oh, was it? Okay.
He says, "Well, hello, Nolan North, voice cameo as the Excelsior captain. Between this, Star Trek Into Darkness, and all his Lower Decks roles, he's racking up quite the number of roles. He's a famous voice actor."
Nice.
No, Shelby, no, Shelby, I don't know how he's saying that. It would have been easier for them to defend themselves if the phasers were beams instead of individual shots. I don't know, man. Whatever. The phasers look awful. They always looked awful. The individual, long-standing, slow phaser shots, the beams on all the Star Trek shows before New Trek looked awful. It's not conducive to action. It's not conducive to fast-paced editing. Even if you go back and guess what? DS9, once again, taken charge during the Dominion War, those phaser rifles were shooting individual shots. Pew, pew, pew,
Oh,
pew,
yeah.
pew. Like, they did quick phaser bursts as well. So,
Yeah.
I'm good with the change. Stu continues, yeah, so you can probably tell I'm not so hot on this one. The big reveal was just pretty deflating with so many other interesting possibilities. And it does it while seemingly ignoring all they did last season with the Borg. They're going straight to Earth and not trying to get in touch with Jurati and her much more evolved version of the Borg to help. Or how about any of the countless friendly species not yet affected? The Vulcans aren't available, not to mention the tonal whiplash of how dire the situation was as they fled Earth to immediately go into cozy nostalgia fest ending scene where you'd be mistaken for thinking thousands of Starfleet personnel didn't just die and billions/trillions more lives weren't at stake. Hope it finishes better. Man, Stu.
I felt that whiplash. I won't lie. Like, I definitely felt the whiplash he's talking about. I do think they could have written it a little differently. Like, let's say they find out about their people being converted because their ship got taken first or something, you know, like their ship gets taken because they're closer to Borg space because Jack hijacked them or whatever. And so they take over the crew. They realize that's what's going on at the day celebration. And they have already at that point, they have lost their ship. They go and get the ship. And then using the Galaxy class, they go up and do that whole communication. That could have worked, and it felt a little less whiplashly, I do think.
Yeah.
Because there's like, oh my gosh, it's all so crazy, and now we're supposed to like just... It's the same thing what they did with the table. I complained about it with the table two episodes ago or whatever, when it's like...
Yeah.
The Federation's on the verge of destruction. Now let's all sit and hug in this room because we haven't seen each other for a while, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just... Yeah, I get what he's saying there with that particular complaint.
As for countless friendly species, not yet affected, I would have loved a line somewhere in there about like, okay, first of all, if the friendly species are part of the Federation, they're probably affected as well to some degree, or might be.
Yeah, it's very possible.
And so if they're not using if the transmitter is not reaching them, they might still be affected. But I would have also loved something regarding like the political climate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like I think it would have been really interesting if a lot of these species had left the Federation, or if they weren't in the Federation, had like kind of cut contact or ally status with Starfleet because of what happened with the Romulans.
Exactly.
That would have been really cool.
As you know, like just from like real political situations, once a country like turns its back on another country that it's promised things to, like it kind of loses faith with all the other countries that's counting on it, you know? So maybe the Klingon Empire isn't as trusting of Starfleet because it, things that went so badly with the Romulans, or, whatever has gone on in the intervening time since the Dominion War. Like, and there really isn't that many other friendly, large scale fleets out there. I mean, the Klingons were 30 years ago, but we don't know what's happened. And the Romulans kind of were at one point, but they're not really anymore. And yeah, it's dire situation. And there is like, with them being assimilated, like, and only needing for people to go through the transporter to, like, think about like a Borg fleet that all they got to do is get your shields down and they can just transport everyone over and suddenly have mind control of everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, it's no longer about catching and putting in little tubes from your finger tubes. They just got to transport you, and you like have to keep your shields up at all times to avoid the Borg from just like transporting you out.
I was thinking knuckle straws.
Knuckle straws are good, yeah. It's a good name for them.
But yeah, I mean, you look at Starfleet, like who knows how much faith has been lost, with Starfleet, because not only did they, in season 1, we found out there were conspirators in high-ranking positions in Starfleet, and that was after the whole Romulan debacle. But now, so many of these people have been replaced by changelings.
Mm-hmm. True.
Like, how many friends do Starfleet have?
Yeah.
Like,
at least on that scale. I mean, you think there's just not that many groups on the scale of Starfleet. and the ones we know all have fairly good reasons for not being around.
I would happily take a series that would cost like almost nothing to make. That would just be like Star Trek West Wing, where it's just like Starfleet headquarters,
man. For sure.
Walking around talking about, get Aaron Sorkin to like write it as he would in modern day, and then have like somebody else come in and like translate it into Star Trek. Yes. Sorkin would be like, I don't know what I just wrote, but
yeah,
I'm pretty sure I never said anything about tariffs with the Klingon homeworld, but okay.
Yeah, I would 100% be down for a show like that, like just all political intrigue, and that's it. I'd be down.
Yeah, and then I want Aaron Sorkin to make Star Trek: The Newsroom, where it's just like, I'm very, very, very like intrigued, because ever since Generations. And I was like, oh shit, they have reporters in this universe? I was like, I want to know how that works. Like,
then I want Star Trek Sports Night.
It's like, everyone's so evolved, there's no spin zone, Like, there really is no spin zone. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I really want to, like this just in, Captain Kirk's unpublished memoir says that only conservatives go out into space because we're too soft. That was actually in Roddenberry's
I remember.
Motion picture.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh man, good stuff. Well, I am really freaking excited, man. Thank you everybody for writing in. Hopefully we'll hear from some of you guys next week after the finale. After the denouement, I just hope they leave us in a place that I can stay excited.
What is it? How do they say it online? Use our podcast as your dislike button. Send us all of your angry feedback when you're disappointed that Cisco didn't come back from the wormhole.
I don't think we're getting a Deus Ex Machina.
No.
I really don't. I mean, we might get some form of it. We'll get some form of it, because I think they're going to have to do something to bring down unassimilate all these humans or all these Starfleet. Particularly, I think they're going to probably use Jack. Like, if I'm going to make my prediction for next week, they're going to go straight for the Borg and try to hit them where they're weak, not where they're strong. And stop the transmitter. Can't stop the signal, Mal. They're going to stop the signal.
Oh God!
And stop the assimilation from afar or whatever by stopping Jack. And even if it means this season started, I mean, maybe we're getting like a more interesting like thing about legacy, and I don't know. I just don't know, man, because like the way I view this stuff and the way this show views this stuff, I don't know if it's similar at all. Like, I think he's likely going to have to go and like convince Jack and like talk him down, right? Like that's probable to happen. Yeah. Jack will probably be the new Borg king or whatever, right? Like he's going to take over. And we've talked about it since the first episode that like the first episode he made this horrible decision, or second episode to like go after or to fight and keep Jack just because he was his son, and like part of me wants him to have to like lose. Like I was so against him losing his son earlier this season, and now part of me is like he keeps making decisions and having that conversation with Beverly about how they've lost themselves and how they're willing to do anything to keep their son alive, and it's like, yeah, but maybe you got to kill your son. Like that's terrible, but like that's like the arcs that I see in the show. That's kind of where it's leading. Like he has to kill his son to stop the Borg. But that's terrible. And I was from the very beginning of the season. I said that was really a horrible end for Picard.
Yeah, man.
But maybe it's like
Drop Dead Fred, man. You got to tape up that Jack in the Box.
Yeah. Well, it's a show about legacy, and maybe it's Picard realizing that like biological legacy, like his family legacy that he's lost so many times over, is not what was important all along. Like it's the other parts of his legacy that he has chosen. But that'd be such a dark ending. I don't know. I don't know what I want, man.
One, I feel like I need acknowledgement because Jack is in a cube. He's literally a Jack in the Box.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. You got to tape
that was
up.
Pretty good.
You got to tape up the Jack in the Box. Yeah, true. And I did not catch the reference. And you're right. You're right. You're very right. Maybe this is all. Maybe this is all. You know, there's a lot of jokes about how not jokes. There's a discussion about how Kevin Feige, when he was writing Endgame, looked at the last episode of Next Generation as his model, you know. Maybe Terry Matalas, his model for how to end a series is Drop Dead Fred. It's been all about Drop Dead Fred this whole time.
Yeah. Picard slides on his back underneath the Borg Queen and goes, "Cobwebs! Cobwebs!" That's a classic cult comedy.
Yep. Weird. What a weird one.
Yeah, but we just Bethany had never seen it, and I was like, "Oh, it's classic. You got to watch it." And I was sitting there watching it, not being a little kid. I'm like, "Oh man, This is really about emotional trauma, isn't it?"
Yeah, yeah. It's about emotional trauma. It's also very.
This is very dark
And very body for kids. Very, very And I was just like, man. I put it on a few years ago. I put it on for my girlfriend a few years ago, and I was like, she was not having it. She was like, "This is terrible. What are you having me watch?" You know, it was crazy.
And then there's this awful kind of weird message that's if you treat your mental illness, you kill your friends. Your imaginary friends go away. There's some other dimensional being who is dying because you're feeling better.
Yeah, so terrible. So terrible and weird.
Anyway, I'll just like to mention a thing I said on Twitter that got a lot of likes for me.
Nice.
It was 30-something, 38 likes.
Ooh,
more than I normally get. I think they need to upgrade, at the end of this season, they need to upgrade the Enterprise D. We've already got an Enterprise F, so they need to upgrade the Enterprise D and call it the USS Legacy. Boom.
Ooh. Yeah. That sounds great to me.
I mean, total fan bullshit, but yes, please.
And I feel like as I was rewatching it, I was like, you know, it was really funny that they brought in the Enterprise F in the middle of the episode because it felt like, oh, it's a new Enterprise. Oh, baby, we got our crew, and they're bringing a new Enterprise onto the screen. It's oh, this is clearly this is meant to be Enterprise action. And then they go and get the D. You know, I thought that was really funny, kind of to introduce a new Enterprise and then have that not be the plan at all. It was almost like a misdirect.
Yeah, it was 3 minutes and it was overtaken by the Borg.
Yeah. Not great.
Damn it.
Not great Enterprise. F. This is the F?
Yeah.
And the E was lost. To Worf. But the F wasn't new. Did they refit it or something? Is that why it was being introduced? Because the F I know has been in comics and stuff during the Romulan situation.
The F was in Star Trek Online is where it was introduced.
Yeah, but they maybe they just showed that type of ship in the comics, that class.
I don't remember it being in the comics. I remember the E was in the comics.
Okay.
But and the E Data before having Data's brain was the captain of the Enterprise E in the Countdown comics leading up to Star Trek 2009.
Right. That sounds like it's all been rewritten, though.
Yeah. And totally, I would say.
Yeah.
But which is sad because it made it to where the Narada was Borg enhanced, but there were some really cool developments there, but yeah, Enterprise F came from Star Trek Online, including the design. And Star Trek Online is also an alternate timeline to this because it just doesn't fit in with anything.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I like it. I'm excited. I guess we'll let you guys go. Do you got anything else, Dave?
I don't think I have anything else. I don't know. Well, I'm kind of tuckered now.
Yeah, man. We recorded this at 1 a.m, so you're allowed to be.
Yeah.
But we wanted to get it out because if we don't get it out tomorrow, you guys want a chance to listen before the next episode. So I want to get your feedback on.
Yep. I'm so tuckered, give me a bow tie and call me Carlson.
Joel Untrue.
Dom Jot, human.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.